Well, we're drowning in pollen here in Raleigh. Everything overlapped all at once. We got the pine pollen, we got the oak pollen, we got it all at the exact same time. And it's been unbelievable week of being out here just breathing pollen, but we're moving the garden forward. There's a lot of things in full flower out here. We're going to show some of those things in this video. We're really starting to, I think we're maybe losing it on how many pieces we have that need to go in the ground at this point. We have more things coming this week. We went down to Big Bloomers this week and got some annuals, but we started a lot of our annuals this year. So a lot of our stuff is really starting to, you know, come on and look good. All of our trays are outside now. I'll talk about that in a minute though, because they're going to have to go back in the next few nights. But we've really started to assess everything we had, and then came up with a plan to buy a few annuals that we probably needed to fill in with that we didn't, it either didn't come up from seed, because some of the seed we used is a couple years old, and sometimes it's whatever, you know, sometimes not everything goes perfect when you're doing things from seed, but a lot of it did. But we filled in with a few things from down there. We also ended up with a couple shrubs, a couple new osmanthus we'll be talking about in a couple upcoming videos. And if you saw the cover photo of the video, this osmanthus is, you'll see where it's going to go in the garden pretty soon. We got a new Fats hedra that has a curly leaf on it, a little different than the Fats hedra that you guys have seen in the videos for the last 2 or 3 years. We can't go anywhere without the hosta addiction being showing itself, and the selection of hosta down at Big Bloomers is just great. It's hard not to pick. Just don't walk into that area of that greenhouse, or you will come out with a new hosta almost certainly. So we have a lot of things to go in the ground this upcoming week, but okay, a lot of that's not going to be in this video. Okay, I've actually, in the process of, we've composted most of the annual beds where all of these things are going to go. We've composted the vegetable garden. That's been in video content already. We're ready to go to put things in the ground. But we have a 35-degree night on the forecast 2 nights from now. And as you're watching this video, well, this video will go up on Monday, so I think it'll be Tuesday night when it's supposed to be 35. I had said in a video the other day that the winter will not give up this easily, and here we are. I said it was going to be 38 or 39 at that time, and it was going to trend one way or the other. And wildly, like after that video went up, I looked at the 10-day forecast and it said it was going to be 46. And I was like, well, I just, you know, nobody's going to believe anything. Nobody's going to believe that I can read a 10-day forecast, because literally the next day it was 6 degrees warmer, and now it's come like a rubber band back the other direction, and now it's predicted to be 35. 35 is not freezing, but for some people somewhere, if you get the right conditions, it's going to drop to 32. You know, they predict 35, somebody's getting 32 for sure, and especially in outlying areas. If it's a really calm night, it can, of course, they can just be flat out wrong, and it'll be 38 or 32 just all over the place. So none of this stuff is going to go in the ground, anything with new growth on it, anything that's started from seed this year. We'll wait until after this. This is what we do. This is why I always say April 15th for us is the day. And even on April 15th, we're looking at the calendar. So we're going to show you some things that are in flower. Hopefully those flowers won't get damaged, and I don't think they will. Most of the things in the ground will be fine. But some of the newly planted stuff, or stuff that has 3 inches of new growth that may have come out of a greenhouse or something like that, that would be problematic. So let's take a look around. We'll include a few of the Encore Azaleas because they're really starting to show off in the garden. This is Autumn Fire, which is one of the dwarf Encore Azaleas. This is obviously red. It has not opened up fully. It'll be flower to flower when it fully opens up, but I don't know when I'm going to film again out here. So I'll wait too long, and then it'll be past peak. So I'm getting it before peak flowering, but it'll be solid red. We had Autumn Bonfire sitting here next to it, and they were swallowing one another a bit, and neither one of them was performing all that well. So we moved Bonfire over to the other side of the garden. I'll show you that in just a second. There's one of the species tulips back here, Honky Tonk. It's closing up for the day. These open up big, wide during the day and capture sunlight. And then as we're filming in the afternoon, and it got a little cloudy, and they immediately started to close up just a bit. But we have lots of these species tulips out here in the garden, and they've been showing off here and there. There's one that's still fully open at the end of the day. But you can see they're all super, super interesting. They're more reliable than some of the other tulips coming back for us. Not always, but most of the time, and we had a nice cold winter, so lots of them have come back looking pretty good this spring. And this is autumn bonfire. Bonfire is also red, but gets a little bit taller than fire. And again, I'm shooting this several days before it's going to be in peak flower. It'll be solid red here in the next few weeks, and it'll come back out and do this exact same thing in the fall. But both of those plants are happier now having been separated because they were just kind of eating one another. That autumn fire probably is still in a little bit too much shade over there to be really, really happy. This autumn bonfire is now out in a lot of sun, and it's definitely thriving more. These things definitely need more sun than traditional azaleas. And even me saying that repeatedly on the videos, even I'm not good at remembering that and doing that. But out here in the full sun, this one has just really come into its own pretty quickly, and it'll be solid red in a week. Along with our collection of hostas, we've ended up with quite the collection of Ajuga as well. It's just such a good ground cover, you know, just takes up a space where we would have to mulch otherwise. This is chocolate chip Ajuga, which has a very dark foliage, but this time of year the foliage tends to lean toward green, and these flowers really, really pop on it. This was 5 plants that were planted here, and it's on its way to becoming just one massive plant. And the nice thing about Ajuga is that, you know, we have rabbits out here and they're not messing with them. Nothing is messing with them. They just kind of mind their own business. We do have to get the leaves off of them in the fall. You know, we leave our leaves out here in the garden, and that can be problematic. Well, I wish this video had smell-o-vision, because this is the most incredibly fragrant plant. And it's this time of day in particular. This is the Stella Ruby Magnolia, which I've shown many times. But it comes into full flower here in the spring. And if you walk over to this thing at 9 in the morning and smell it, you will not believe me that it is incredibly fragrant. Then at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, every day out here, it's all you can smell in this garden. It is wild how it has a very particular time of day. It has a dark flower on it, you know, and so the flower's not showy, but it doesn't need to be, because the aroma fills the entire garden. It's almost like Osmanthus fragrans that way. I mean, Osmanthus fragrans is blooming over there and it's fragrant right now. But the flowers don't have to have any size, because you can smell them across the garden, and that's the same with this. The structure of this thing is just absolutely perfect. I've really come to decide that there are some plants that can take a season or two to really become what they're going to become and draw you in, and this plant is definitely one of them. I see them in containers, and growers tend to struggle with them just a bit. They don't look as good, you know, in containers. Of course, they're not flowering, you know, when they're teeny tiny things, and the flowers aren't the showiest things in the world. So I think people see these at retail. They may not be all that drawn to it. We have done nothing to this plant. This plant is now 12 feet tall. It's, what is that, 6 feet wide, Steph? Something like that.
3-gallon.
It was a 3-gallon container. It didn't look the greatest. It didn't look like the greatest thing in the world when it went in the ground, and nothing has been done to it. And this is 4 years on, and now it's basically flower to flower. It will be blooming. It blooms from the newest flower buds. The oldest flower buds are out toward the end, and they develop into the plant. So it will be, you know, will be several weeks here of these things opening up, and then being, you know, again, fragrant in the evening, which is super, super interesting. But it's an amazing plant. I just think it takes a minute for this thing to really become what it's going to become in the landscape. We have another banana shrub or Magnolia type magnolia. These used to have their own genus, now they're in Magnolia, but this is another one that's out on the market called Serendipity. It's from Bobby Green down in Fairhope, Alabama, and a lot of the camellias in our garden are from him and his breeding, but he did this one. So this one definitely has a slightly showier flower, right, than Stella Ruby. This one does get much bigger though. The one at the Ralston is a very large, wide plant, so you need some space for this one. We've planted it in an area where we can allow it to get pretty big in time, but even this amount of space is not going to be enough space for it. The one at the Ralston must be 18 feet tall and 12 to 14 feet wide, so it's much more round in nature. I'll try to keep it pruned in just a little bit. The interesting fragrance difference, you know, these are both, again, Magnolia type or banana shrub hybrids. That one over there, Stella Ruby, has kind of an applesauce fragrance to it. I mean, Yeah, what's that?
Applesauce with a hint of banana?
Yeah, applesauce with a hint of banana is what Steph said. This one truly has a just kind of straight perfumey magnolia scent to it. I mean, if you smell this one, you just think of Southern Magnolia. And it's kind of interesting that the fragrance is very, very different on them. The Stella Ruby has more of a traditional fragrance for a banana shrub. But anyway, this is one of our favorite plants over at the Ralston for many years now, and it comes into full flower here, coming out of winter into early spring, and then it's just a really great looking leafy evergreen shrub even after it's finished flowering. The Dr. Rupel clematis is just starting to open a flower here or there. It'll be another week or so. That thing will be in absolute full flower. Hopefully a lot of them will stay closed through this cold night that's coming up. We moved the calicarpa, the white berry and calicarpa, over to the native garden, if you're following the native garden project over here, that was here, and we moved the Cestrum parquet over here because the calicarpa was just too wide for this spot. We have a much bigger space over there that we can let it really just take on its own character. But the Cestrum's already coming up from the bottom. Of course, the clematis is on its way over here. I'm terrible at getting these clematis put on the fence. Like I want it to grow all the way across here, and then I just watch it grow in a pile. that's what happens. This is amethyst. This is the other dwarf red bud. So if you've been watching any of these update videos on the garden waking up this spring, we showed emerald, which is the green foliage version of this, in the last one of these, and this is the purple foliage one. So you see the foliage coming out already. We've missed peak flower, but it really does flower quite heavily. Some of these other hybrid new red buds, I don't think flower as well, but these two do. These two dwarf ones, they really put on a flower show for us from the top to the bottom, up the stems, and then now the leaves are starting to come out on it. And it's out here in a lot of sun out here in the front garden. You know, we think of red buds as kind of understory plants, but we'll have annuals planted around the base of this thing during the summer. So during the heat of the summer, it'll have its roots cooled a little bit, and I think that will help the foliage color withstand the heat of the summer, because a lot of these purple foliage red buds, if they're out in a lot of sunlight here in the south, they really look a little rough by the end of summer, and they'll lose a lot of that purple. They'll just be kind of green and beat up looking by the end of summer. But I think in the process of composting this annual bed that we have in the front garden, and again, that should help it stay cool this summer. We have this candy tuft out by the street that is in full bloom, and it has been for a couple weeks, and I just forget to film it because it's on the other side of the fence every time. We shot this in one of these. You're seeing some videos come up on the channel right now with a bunch of different plants for different types of situations in the garden, and we shot a bunch of, we put up the shade ground cover one already, but we haven't put the sun ground cover one up. This one will be included in that. We're just gonna add a few more plants to it before we put that video up, but it'll be like 20 or 25 ground covers for full sun kind of a video that's coming, and that will be included in it. We have, we're digging up a few things out here in the garden that have come up. There's a few seedlings from that white calicarpa out here. We're potting some of these things up, and they'll be part of the giveaways for the open garden, which is gonna be June 20th and 21st. Tickets are over on the website, but there'll be lots of giveaways for that. Some of those plants that you saw on the patio in the back at the beginning of this video are actually giveaway things for that, but we're in the process. Any place where we have suckering plants or seedlings and that kind of thing, we're digging them up, putting them in pots, and there'll be giveaways for that event. Planted this Mount Airy Fothergilla at the beginning of last season, very small 1-gallon shrub, so I'm kind of happy with how many flowers it has on it in this first season. It has kind of a honey scented flower, great fall foliage, great native plant. It's in that it's in that witch hazel family with Loropetalum and Distilium and witch hazels, where they all have this kind of frilly flowers like this. Some fragrant, some not. This happens to be one of the fragrant members of that plant family, and just a great, really great plant. There's some blue foliage varieties of these. Green foliage ones that have been picked for really compact habits. Great ornamental plants, really. Probably one of those underused natives that actually behaves pretty well in the garden. We've got the hellebores out here, the fetid hellebores, or Helleborus fetidus, I guess is the Latin name for this. They have bloomed and now they have formed this seed. And if you have these, it might be a good idea, although this continues to look decorative. Those seed are viable. And if you look, I mean, I can come right over here and just pull up, you know, this is last year's seed that came up. This is the year before that seed that came up. You know, there's 3 of them here together. And then the 3rd or 4th year, they'll be like that and they'll be blooming. This one can get on the move in your garden, is my point. And so when they get to the point where these seed are at this point, you can just come out and cut them off. Great texture plant. You know, it's really very different foliage than other hellebores. And it doesn't really need this on it to look decorative, really. So I would encourage you, if you're worried about plants kind of taking over the garden or becoming seedy in the garden, this is definitely one of those. And if you just take the flowers off afterwards, or maybe you have a line of ligustrum or something you've inherited and you don't want to let them get seeded out all over the place, some sort of invasive plant like that, as soon as it finishes flowering, give it a haircut. And that way those flowers can't form any fruit that or berries that can end up out in the wild. We had a friend move out of the neighborhood, and before they put their house up for sale, allowed us to dig out a few things in their garden, and this particular Jack in the Pulpit was one of those things that we got out of there, and this is the first time I think we've seen it flower since we planted it in this little part shady place. It's one of those cool spring ephemerals that comes up and surprises you super early in the season. And so we look forward to this one getting a little bigger in the future. We don't always get a lot of luck with returning tulips here in the garden, but those 4 red tulips are super showy returnees from last year's display out here. The daffodils and lots of other ones do come back, but those some of those tulips just don't. The Shasta viburnum, you know, again, not knowing when I'm going to film here over the next week, is not in full flower yet. They haven't fully colored up white, nor have the flowers on the inside actually opened up. You know, we have these the showy bits around the outside here, but the actual flower parts haven't opened in the middle. But look at the foliage is great on this plant. The form is great on this plant. It's just one of our favorite ornamental plants. It just gets too wide for our garden, so we've been limbing it up. In the process of limbing it up, and we did limb it up this winter, and I will tell you that the weight of some of these branches coming out already with the new leaves and the weight of the flowers has all of a sudden, I can't see under it as well as I could again. So I might get under here and take a couple of these bottom pieces off once it's finished flowering. It's just a perfect plant for this corner though, and we love the foliage on it. As you're watching this video on Monday, tomorrow's video is going to be all about viburnums, and I'm excited about this video. We went over to the Ralston, filmed. This is viburnum season, okay? So we get hydrangea season is always later in the season, right? Before we see the all the different hydrangeas come into flower. But this is, to me, almost every bit as good as viburnum season. Some are fragrant, some are fetid, you know, some get berries, some get fall color, some grow in zone 3, some only grow up to zone 8. Some are evergreen, some are not. Some are sterile and some produce edible fruit. So really wild group of plants from all over the globe. We have some great native ones that will be in that video, and then some Asian species as well. If you're watching the channel, be on the lookout for that video. Hopefully it'll be up tomorrow, right after this one, and maybe you'll be as excited about putting viburnum in your garden as we are here in our Raleigh garden. So thank you guys so much for following along. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because we've got, as you saw at the beginning, tons and tons of things going in the ground this spring. Thanks for watching.